1. I live in the middle of nowhere. I moved to my current town about 12 years ago, and it has about 100 people in it, and is surrounded by wooded area. We have a local legend about a naked phantom woman that steals people's hunting kills, and steals hunting supplies, mostly knives, nets, and rifle ammunition. She has pale pink skin and black hair, and wears a white mask that kind of resembles the tragedy mask. The wind kind of whistles here, and you can sometimes hear what sounds like crying in it, which is said to be her. I thought it was just a legend, but I've actually seen this woman, and so have a lot of other people. I was out fishing with my father when we saw her. We were keeping our fish, and as we were packing up, my dad pointed out what looked like a naked woman watching us. When I realized she had pink skin, I got pretty scared. She was peering out from behind a tree across the river from us. We both stared at her for a few seconds, and then she ran off. That was when I was 16, and I saw her again when I was 19. I was hiking in the woods with my boyfriend one night, and we saw her sitting against a tree staring up at the moon. When she saw us, she got up and booked it. The creepy part is, when she ran off, we didn't hear footsteps. She was sitting around tons of sticks, yet none of them broke when she walked on them. What really freaks me out about this is that everyone just seems to accept this as normal. People's supplies go missing all the time, and I've heard multiple accounts of seeing her eating dead animals. I have a neighbor who was out duck hunting, shot one down, then couldn't find it, but found barefoot human footprints in the area. This isn't a part of the folklore of the native tribes here either, so I don't know what it could be. It doesn't end there, though. I've explored the woods around here very thoroughly, and came upon an old broken wooden hut about 4 miles from town. Inside it I found a bunch of old knives, but that was it. It made me wonder if that's where she lives, if this was just some deranged person. She couldn't be naked all the time with how cold our winters are. There were no signs of a fire pit anywhere around the hut. There weren't any blankets or clothes in there, only a bunch of knives. After being there for about 10 minutes, I was suddenly struck with severe anxiety and left as quickly as I could. Since then, every time I go out hunting, fishing, or even just for a walk in the woods, I feel like I'm being watched. I probably should have left that little hut alone. Everyone round here just calls her the Phantom of the Woods, and I think she truly lives up to that title. Part of me wants to believe she's just some crazy person, but there's too much backing up that she really is a phantom. 2. So I just want to preface that I try to approach things skeptically. I do wonder about the legitimacy of my experiences, and of course if it's all just my mind playing tricks on me or wishful thinking. So if you have doubts, believe me, I'm right there with you. I regularly converse with beings unseen, using a crystal pendulum and letterboard. Things like deceased family, namely my grandparents, the past owner of my mother's home, and some beings not human. This past Christmas, I wanted to get to the bottom of a situation my mother was having regarding someone knocking in a room below my parents' bedroom. So I asked with my pendulum board. They told me their full name, which matched the records of the first owner of the house. They were nice enough, and when asked who was knocking, said that it was not them. I asked why they were still there in the house, and they claim it was to protect your family. From what exactly? Well, they claimed there was a demon there too, and that it was them, the demon, knocking at night. Well, I decided to do something that many of you will agree was not the best idea, and I agree. I started to converse with the demon. They did outright say that they were a demon, and after some convincing, they finally gave me their name, Baal. Why was he there? I wanted to know why he was targeting my parents. I was drawn by your family's financial anxiety. Well, that answers that. I told him that I did not appreciate him doing what he was doing because, well, I don't want to assume nor give him ideas. Some choice words were said on his part towards me, which frankly, being on the internet you get desensitized to, being called a bitch, cunt, fuck yous. Anyways, I asked him to leave politely. 'cause regardless of what you are, I'll still be polite but firm. He said he'd leave if I renounced God. What he didn't expect was that I was agnostic and otherwise non-Christian. Seriously, he pulled a, "Wait, what? Oh crap. I didn't expect this turn of events, So having explained that, he reluctantly said, "Fine, I'll leave." Of course, I'm still skeptical because, well, demons. Told him I didn't want him here, parents' home, nor do I want to see nor hear from him at my place, or of anyone's I love. Another fine, and I closed the discussion. When I got home and did a general smoke cleansing of my space and a shower with salt to try and get rid of any attachments, and asked my house guardian if they can sense if anything followed, they said no, and I haven't brought it up since. I'm trying to be mindful, keeping an eye out to make sure nothing shows up due to this, taking precautions here and there, but just generally watching my back. Again, because I so casually talk about these experiences like this is some normal everyday occurrence, as well as with these unseen forces, good and bad, I'm trying to seek advice, medically, to ensure this isn't something like schizophrenia, or some other mental illness. So that part is in process, because I know that's one thing I want to rule out. In the meantime, I do need to bring this up with my mom, who believes a lot of this stuff too, and see what steps we can take. Thank you for hearing me out, and if you have any advice or anything, I'm open to hear it, please. I should probably mention that paranormal things run in my family, and I'm an empath if that means anything. I feel that with that being said, that spirits and beings take note of that, and are otherwise drawn to me, that they can sense that I can and have communicated with beings like them. I don't know if that would make me a medium since I don't get visions or hear voices and signals, or otherwise get feelings like, say, others have. So I don't know if that helps. 3. 7 months ago, I moved into a house with my boyfriend. He's lived in it for about 2 years, never experiencing anything to make him think it was haunted. He's a skeptic, and nothing scares him. It's also important to note that this house is roughly 100 years old. No one has been born and no one has died in this house. Before I moved in, I did notice some spooky happenings. Doors more open and closed without any help. Creeping floorboards in the bedroom and on the stairs. But I myself am a skeptic and only believe something is supernatural when I can't debunk it. I know old houses creak and pipes bang, and I can tell the difference between these happenings and others. This experience happened a few months after I moved in. I share a bed with my boyfriend and a small dog. Normally I'm as light a sleeper as they, but this night I was so exhausted from work that I was sleeping like a rock. Around 3 or 4 a.m., I woke up to my dog jumping off the bed and walking around the bed a few times. This is pretty normal for him, so I tried getting back to sleep. In the back of my mind, I noticed a noise, like a wet cough, but ignored it. Then my boyfriend started shaking me gently to wake me up. "Do you hear that?" He sounded panicked, so I picked myself up on my elbows and listened. But the sound was so out of place that it didn't register in my half-asleep mind. "Baby, can you hear that too?" At this point, my dog is growling and fighting to get under the bed. He was reaching his paw under and stomping at something. Mixed with his growl was the sound of a fussing baby. It took about 10 seconds of listening to the sound before I suddenly got really angry, out of nowhere. I reached over, picked the dog up, and put back on the bed, and lay back down angrily saying, "It's not important, ignore it." I only remember picking the dog up and mumbling that I was so tired, but my boyfriend said I spoke clearly and sounded mad. I fell back asleep almost immediately, but both my dog and boyfriend stayed up the rest of the night, listening to the sound that stopped once I fell back asleep. When I woke up, it was as if I blinked and sleep was over, no dreams at all. My boyfriend doesn't want to talk about it anymore because it freaked him out so much. We know for a fact that our neighbors don't have any children, and there was no TV on, no phones, no laptops, nothing to make that noise. And there's nothing under the bed. We checked in the morning. A week later, I had one of the scariest paranormal experiences in my life. I had to call my parents to drive over 20 minutes to my house immediately. It's rare to see such solid proof of something unnatural. 4. My boyfriend has constant night terrors, also known as sleep paralysis. They are often so bad that I'll have to full-on slap him in the face to wake him up. I know when it's happening because his breathing changes immediately, and it's so sudden that it wakes me up. He often tells me that he fears he is going to die in his sleep from the fright alone. Lately, we've been discussing that he feels like there is a presence in the room. Usually it's a cloaked or hooded shadow figure standing over him. I've looked this up online and noted that the cloaked shadow man is the same as what is known as the Hat Man. The Hat Man is a figure that most people see or feel during sleep paralysis. When he told me this, I related to him an experience that I thought I would share here. When I had my experience with the Hat Man for the first time, I knew I would never forget it. The fear and confusion was unlike anything I've ever experienced, and I couldn't sleep the rest of the night because I needed answers. I never really have chronic sleep paralysis, so this experience was so sudden and unexpected for me. I was sleeping facing an open window, and the house I was at was actually located right across from a cemetery. In my dream, it was raining heavily. I was walking down the road with my friend towards his house, which was at the end of a cul-de-sac. Only in my dream, instead of his house being off to the right, there was a small office building. We decided to run inside and wait out the rain in the lobby. The building was obviously closed as all of the lights were off and no one was there. My back was against the wall with the glass doors of the building to my left, and the grey light from the outdoors peering in. My friend was standing in front of me, facing me, smiling and talking, and behind him was a row of cubicles. Suddenly my friend got quiet and threw his head into my chest as if he was an extremely frightened child. I looked over his shoulder, and this inky black shadow in the shape of a person crept out from one of the cubicles. The most notable thing was that it wore a distinct wide-brimmed hat. It came right up behind my friend and put his face next to his, as if whispering in his ear. There was a deafening sound, and at first I couldn't figure out what it was. Then I realized that what I was hearing was this thing speaking in tongues. I couldn't understand the language, but it sounded ancient and sinister. My friend was shuddering in fear against my chest. This was when I woke up. In real life, my friend was shaking me back and forth, trying to wake me up. The first thing he asked me was if I was having a seizure. I must have fallen asleep, and he was too busy to notice because he was watching TV or playing games. He looked over and he explained to me that I was shaking violently in my sleep. When I told him my dream, he became stiff and didn't really continue to press the conversation anymore. Has anyone else experienced the Hat Man in their sleep? Can you recall any spoken words or languages you didn't understand? 5. A little background. My family and I have long moved out of that house, but my memories from there are so vivid. I was 8 to 10 while living in that house in Georgia, and I always recall loving it there. The people were nice, and we had a big backyard that led into a massive forest. My older sister, who was a year older than me, and I were not allowed to play in. Also, my parents were very protective and kept a baby monitor in our room. I believe there were 3 ghosts in that house, one evil, one in the middle, and one who was good. The one who made that place feel like a true home, and the only reason I wish I could go back, even after everything I went through. I never saw it, but it had a presence I just can't describe, nurturing almost. I've never felt anything like it since we moved. My dad said I was a weird kid and that I would play in the toy room by myself in the dark, but I don't remember any of that. Everything there was perfect to me until a nightmare I had. In the dream, I'm sleeping in bed with my sister, as we would often do as kids. I woke up in the dream and was immediately yanked out of bed by my ankle. I remember struggling, but I didn't scream. A hand was pulling me under my bed from a deep, dark hole. At this point, I could feel myself starting to wake up in real life, and the dream took a turn. The literal monster grabbing me showed its face, and looked me dead in the eyes before saying, Don't wake up. At this point, I could feel my eyes straining to open, and the thing started repeating the sentence over and over and over, telling me not to wake up. But I did, and it was as if nothing had happened. I hadn't even fallen out of bed, and it was even the same time as it was in the dream. Moving on now to how all this connects. The first incident happened when I woke up at midnight and saw a woman standing at the foot of my bed. My sister and I slept in. It might sound a bit cliché, but this woman was pale, had long black hair, and wore a white nightgown. I don't remember what her face looked like, but all she did was face the window and stare out of it, which was across the room. The feeling of dread hit me, and for some reason I know if I moved or made a sound, something terrible would happen to me. I'd never been so still in my life. Thankfully, it wasn't long before she sank through the floor and disappeared, along with that horrible feeling. The room under mine was my parents', so I was scared she'd do something to them. I grabbed the baby monitor, which was on my night table, and started begging my mom and dad to come upstairs to our room. They did and told me it was just a dream, but I was wide awake at the time it happened. Another incident that happened was the scariest thing I've ever experienced in that house. On this night, my grandfather was visiting and he slept upstairs in my brother's old room, which was a little down the hall from my room. My sister and I decided to sleep with him since we were scared to be in our normal room alone. Being the smallest, I slept in between my grandfather and my big sister, turned towards the doorway. And before I say what happened, I can promise you that this was not a dream. I know for a fact this was real because I pinched myself and bit my lip, drawing blood, to see if I was dreaming. I yet again woke up in the middle of the night, but I didn't notice anything was strange. It was quiet. But suddenly there was a loud bang. I could tell it came from my room down the hall, not just anywhere in my room. In my closet. The banging just got louder and louder, but didn't move from my room. I got scared and covered my ears to block out the noise, but no matter how long I covered them, when I uncovered them, it would still be happening. It was about 10 minutes before I heard a deep voice, like a really deep voice, call my name. It repeated it with each bang, and it was furious. I kept covering and uncovering my ears, hoping it would go away. And I even started to cry and bit my lip to shut myself up, so it wouldn't hear me. It repeated 3 words after repeating each with a banging. Then saying the next word, it said, my name, banging for a few minutes, don't. More crazy loud banging as if trying to break down the door, and finally no. Then at some point it started to fade, and I only went back to sleep when the sun started coming up and the birds started chirping. More crazy stuff would happen, like dogs barking, hearing my name being called by a family member to come upstairs, even though no one was there. The occasional bang, and one time, my dad saw a man in a KKK uniform watching us from the woods. We finally moved, but even in the new house things started happening, but that's another story. Thank you for listening if you got this far. If you have any explanation for this, please tell me. It would mean a lot. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 120. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, that's about a week and a half of the year gone already. I should probably just start preparing for next Christmas at this rate. Last year certainly wished by. Okay, for those who are wanting to participate in streams but are missing them, I'm probably going to do one this weekend, whether that will be tonight after you hear this, or Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure yet. If I get done early enough on Friday with making the weekend videos, I might just go ahead and get a stream going, if there's enough time. If I'm done about 7 or 8 o'clock, I might do one then. You'll check your local listings and yada yada for appropriate times. I'll just need to... I was going to say put my head together, but with what I have no idea. I'm going to have a bit of a think as to what we can do on live stream. Might be more Photoshop stuff. I was designing t-shirts during the last stream, so maybe something like that. Unless there's some more family pictures that need to be sorted. I think I've got a few still to scan, but not too many. We'll see. I'm sure I'll come up with something interesting. I just like to have something interesting on screen while I'm chatting. I mean, I might not actually get a lot of work done, but because if the chat kind of zips along and we get caught up in conversations, which is kind of the way we want it to go. But it's good to have something there during the lulls. Anyway, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.